Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 7, verses 7 and 8. Further inquiries by Vijaya. Text 7. Etasmin me mano vidvan. Etasmin me mano vidvan. Kidyate Jnana Sankate Kidyate Jnana Sankate Tan Na Paranuta Vivo Tanna Paranuta Vivo Kashmanam Manasam Mahat Kashmanam Manasam Mahat Itasmin me mano vidvan Kidyate jnana shankate Tanna paranuta vipo Kashmanam manasam mahat Itasmin me mano vidvan Kidyate jnana shankate Tanna paranuta vipo Kashmanam manasam mahat Chant.
Etasmin me mano vidvan Vidyate jnana sankate Tanna paranuta vipo Kashmanam manasam mahat
Etasmin me mano vidvan
Vidyate jnana sankate
Tanna
paranuta vivo
paranuta vivo
Kashmanam manasam mahat
Kashmanam manasam mahat
Etasmin me mano vidvan
Etasmin me mano vidvan Vidyate jnana sankate Tanna paranuta vivo Kashmanam manasam mahat
Etasmin me mano vidvan
Etasmin me mano vidvan
Vidyate jnana sankate
Vidyate jnana sankate
Tanna paranuta vivo
Tanna paranuta vivo
Kashmanam manasam mahat
Kashmanam manasam mahat Etasmin in this me mind mana mind vidvan over one Kidyate is troubling Ajnana Neshes Sankate in distress Tat therefore Naha might Paranuta clear up Vivo a great one Kashmanam illusion Manasam relating to the mind Mahat great translation. O great and learned one, my mind is greatly illusioned by the distress of this nation, so I therefore request you to clear it up. Repeat. O great and learned one,
my
my mind is greatly illusioned. by the distress of this nation. And I therefore request you to clear it up. Report. Such mental bewilderment is as represented here by Vidura takes place for some living entities, but not for everyone. For if everyone were bewildered, there would be no possibility of a solution by higher personalities. So Maitreya is not bewildered here. But verse 8, Shi Shuka Uvacha Sa Itam Charitam Kshatra Tattva Jigyasanapani Patyaha Bhagavad Chita Smayaniva Patasaya. Shi Shukadeva Goswami said, O king, Maitreya, being thus agitated by the inquisitive Vidura, at first seemed astonished, but then he replied to him without hesitation, since he was fully God conscious. Purport. Since the great sage Maitreya was filled with God consciousness, he had no reason to be astonished at such contradictory questions by Vidura. Therefore, although as a devotee he externally expressed surprise as if he did not know how to reply to those questions, he immediately became perfectly settled and properly replied to Vidura. Yasmin vigate sarvamevam vigatam bhavati. Anyone who is a devotee of the Lord knows about the Lord to some extent, and devotional service to the Lord makes him able to know everything by the grace of the Lord. Although a devotee may apparently express himself to be ignorant, he is full of knowledge in every intricate matter. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananja Shakaya Chakshuritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So what is the qualification of Maitreya? He's filled with God consciousness. Oh, thank you. So Prabhupada is also an example of perfect Krishna consciousness. Sometimes devotees are confused about Prabhupada. That if he was omniscient and he knew everything, but sometimes he would forget a verse, or he would say a wrong name for something, or he would forget something, so how could he be omniscient? So the devotees questioned him. Satyrup Maharaj questioned him. Prabhupada, in one purport of Bhagavad Gita, you write, the disciple of a bona fide spiritual master is supposed to know everything. Prabhupada said, yes, if he follows a spiritual master. Satyrup said, but how could he know? What does that mean, everything? So Prabhupada said, everything means whatever his guru knows. He should know that much. Not like God, everything. Within his limit, that's all. He tries to understand whatever his guru has said. That much is everything. Otherwise, everything does not mean we know everything like God, like Krishna. That is not possible. If he regularly chants and follows the regular principles, follows the orders of Guru, then he knows everything. That's all. Not very much. So Jayadvaita says, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, one who knows him knows everything. Prabhupada said, yes, because if he knows Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then he knows everything. That's all. Not that he should know as Krishna. Yasmin, then he quotes the same as in this verse, Yasmin vigate sarvamevam vigatam. If he accepts Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead, absolute truth, then he knows everything. That is finished. So Prabhupada answered all our questions in his lectures, his books. We all want to be Krishna conscious, and Prabhupada taught us how to achieve that. Here in Bhagavatam, we have example of Maitreya ready to answer all questions. In our lives, we have Srila Prabhupada ready. Sometimes you have a question and you just take the book, you open it up, and you find the answer to your question. You can try that sometimes. It works. Yes. So once in a class in Australia, someone asked Prabhupada, how long will it take to become Krishna conscious? And Prabhupada answered, in a minute. How could that be? How could we be Krishna conscious in a minute? We've been trying for 50 years now. So, well, Prabhupada explains that in purport, last purport of chapter 2 in Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada explains how you can do that in a second, in a minute. So here's what Prabhupada says. One can attain Krishna consciousness or divine life at once within a second, or one may not attain such a state of life even after millions of births. And then he tells us two things, two keys to become Krishna conscious. It is only a matter of understanding and accepting the fact. So two things, understanding and accepting. Kavan Maharaj has attained the stage of life in a moment when he was given benediction by the demigods just a few minutes before his death by surrendering to Krishna. And so, so we have to understand and accept. Understand is like Gyan. We have a theoretical. We understand, yeah, I'm not the body. Yeah, I'm servant of Krishna. Well, what does it mean to accept that? It's more than understanding. It means I'm a servant of Krishna. If I understand that, then I do service. And I engage in some service for Krishna. And so we have practical. If we understand Bhagavad Gita, then we can surrender, because that's the last instruction of Krishna. And Krishna says, Jamma karma chamidigyam evam yoveti tattva. Anyone who understands my birth and activities will go back to Godhead. And so in a lecture, Prabhupada gives us a concession. We may think, how can I understand Krishna's birth and activities? So Prabhupada gives us a concession in one of his lectures. Even if you don't understand Krishna's birth and activities, if you just try to understand. So if we just try, then we can go back to God. We have to try to understand Krishna's birth and activities. So how to accept Krishna? We have to chant Hare Krishna like a child crying for its mother. The first lecture Prabhupada gave on chanting the holy name, Prabhupada said, Mother Hara helps the living entity achieve the grace of the Father Hari. So if we cry loud enough, then Radharani will help us. She'll pick us up. She's our mother. The baby cries. The mother picks up the baby, usually not the father. She'll give us to Krishna. So when we chant nicely, then Krishna also comes. Prabhupada told us many times we should chant and pray, please accept me, please accept me. And if we really chant nicely, with attention, in the lecture Prabhupada also said, Krishna will come, and Krishna will say, please accept me, please accept me. That happens, but we're not ready to accept. That's a lot to accept. And he said there's so many problems we have when we wake up in the morning and think, I got to do this, I got to do that. He said, no, you only have one problem. What's our one problem? How to accept Krishna. That's our problem. How to accept Krishna in our day. So in his lecture, Prabhupada said, Krishna is so kind. He says, yes, accept me. Simply chant Krishna and I'm yours. That's all. But I'm so unfortunate I cannot chant. All problems solved simply by chanting Hare Krishna. So how to increase our attachment to Krishna, how to be Krishna conscious? Prabhupada explained in one purport later in the 9th canto there's a verse about Kamban Maharaj. And he said 4 things. If one daily sees the deity in the temple, makes offerings by worshiping the deity, chants the holy name, and preaches about the glorious activities of the Lord as much as possible, he becomes attached to Krishna. And this is called asati. And then you can fulfill your mission of human life. The Shukadeva Goswami also gives us, in his prayers, we can find out how we can become Krishna conscious also. He has a beautiful prayer in 2nd canto, 4th chapter. And this prayer that Shukadeva says is very similar to a verse in Bhagavad Gita. Madmana bhavato, always think of me, become my devotee. So what is his prayer? Yad kirtanam, yad smaranam, yad ikshanam, yad vandanam, yad sharanam, yad arhanam, lokas isadyo vitanot tamasham, tasmai subhadra sharase namo namaha. Let me offer respectful obeisances to the all auspicious Krishna, about whom glorification, remembrance, audience, prayers, hearing, and worship can at once cleanse the effects of all sins of the performer. So we heard about the 9 kinds of devotional service. Now here, Shukadeva is adding one more, besides Shravanam, Kirtanam, and Arnam. He's adding one more, audience, seeing, just seeing Krishna. You just come to the temple and see the deities. You can remember Krishna, you can chant about Krishna, but he said if you just sit down in front of the deity and look at the deity and go on seeing, that's all you have to do, and appreciate how nicely dressed is Panchatattva today, Lord Jagannath. Now there's another way of seeing, and that is book distribution. If you see the book, Prabhupada said, then you will also benefit, and you'll see the picture Radha and Krishna. And if you open the book, you'll see more, and that's also very beneficial. One time, devotees were distributing books, and they were complaining to Prabhupada, you know, sometimes people, they throw the book in the garbage. And so Prabhupada asked the question, did they touch the book? And they said, yes, well, they will get some benefit. They touched the book. So amazing, amazing. So Iskcon, if you can't chant, Prabhupada said, you can't chant, you can't meditate, your mind is so disturbed, just go and see the deity. That's all you have to do. That's another added by Shukadeva Goswami here in 2.4.15. And yeah, the children, they just come, they can just look at the deity. And if you're more intelligent, Vandanam, offer prayers. And if you're expert, trained by the spiritual master, you can do Arhanam, you can do worship. And there is a beautiful verse later on here in the teachings of Kapila in chapter 25 of this canto, where it says, if you see the smiling face of Krishna, look at the deity, then you are imperceptibly liberated. Even though you don't know it, you're being liberated when you see the deities. So, yes, and it will be washed off. All your sins will be washed off by doing these things. Lokasya sadhyo immediately, no waiting. So now 2.4.16, the second prayer, the next prayer of Shukadeva is very similar to Bhagavad Gita 18.66. Abandon all varieties of religion. Surrender to me, I'll protect you from all sinful reactions. But listen carefully to this verse. It's an upgrade from the verse in Bhagavad Gita. See if you can pick up what's the upgrade from that verse. Let me offer my respectful obeisances again and again unto the all-auspicious Lord Shri Krishna, the highly intellectual, simply by surrendering unto his lotus feet, are relieved of all attachments to present and future existences, and without difficulty progress toward spiritual existence. So did anybody catch the upgrade here? In Gita, it says, I'll protect you from your sinful reaction, that's the past. This verse says, present and future, I'll protect you. I'll protect you from your present and your future attachments. Isn't that wonderful? Not only our past sins, our present ones, and our future ones. Shukadeva is upgrading. A devotee can do that, because whatever a devotee says must come true. If a devotee says something, Krishna must make it true. So Shukadeva said it, so it must come true. Now another interesting thing is in this purport of verse 16 in Canto 2, Prabhupada quotes Bhagavad Gita 15 and 16. Surrender to me, always think of me, become my devotee. But the way he quotes it is in a very beautiful way. It's not the same as when we hear it from Bhagavad Gita. My dear Arjuna, you are very dear to me, and therefore only for your good I will disclose the most secret part of my instructions. It is simply this: become a pure devotee of mine and give yourself to me only, and I promise you full spiritual existence, by which you may gain the eternal right of transcendental loving service unto me. So in 18th chapter he says surrender. Here he says give yourself to me, like a lover and beloved. So that's how Prabhupada, he would translate this verse in so many ways, that 18th chapter verse. You fools and rascals, surrender, he would say sometimes. Yeah, but here he says give yourself to me. Isn't that sweet? that we should give ourselves to Krishna. And according to Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad tells us why we should surrender. And in one purport of his prayers, Prabhupada says that when Krishna says, surrender to me, it means he's calling us. That's his call. He's calling us from Bhagavad Gita. So why should we surrender? Prahlad Maharaj says, first of all, my mind is trapping me with so many desires. Unlimited varieties of desires. Who can get free from this entanglement unless you take shelter at the lotus feet? First reason, we're trapped by our mind. We're in our own prison. And the prison is made of our desires. And the mind is trapping us. First reason, we should surrender to get out of that prison. And secondly, Prahlad Maharaj says, I'm being crushed by the wheel of time. Time is crushing me. So please take me under the protection of your lotus feet. And yes, those of us who are over 40 can tell you that time is crushing us. Every day we wake up and look in the mirror, we see a new wrinkle, and we say, yes, I am not that body. And we're convinced, finally. Yeah, but when you're young, it's not so easy to realize that. You're being crushed by time. But yes, even the young now are getting this COVID. Even the new variant is for the young people more. So they are also being crushed by time. It's happening. It's happening now. So if we're serious to be saved from the crushing of time, we have to learn from Prahlad that please, he's saying, please pick me up. So we say that every day, or Chaitanya says, I'm just your servant. I've fallen into this ocean. Please pick me up and place me as an atom of dust at your lotus feet. So then Prabhupada says, well, Krishna may answer, oh yes, but why should I pick you up? Prapana, because I surrender. That's why. And that's a good reason to surrender. Krishna will pick us up. He'll save us from the wheel of time. So then the next, verse 23 of his prayers, Prahlad says, another reason why we should surrender. Okay, time is crushing us, and our mind is trapping us. Another reason is everything's temporary here. Very temporary. He said, I saw my father when he was angry and laughed sarcastically at the demigods. They were vanquished just seeing the movements of his eyebrows. But he has now been vanquished by you within a moment. So, yes, when I was in an earthquake zone, I realized how everything was temporary. It was Churchgate? No, not Churchgate. Christchurch, New Zealand. They had a huge earthquake, and the whole city was destroyed within 45 seconds. And and so I visited there. And one time I woke up at 2:30 in the morning, and I just started chanting, because that's what I do when I wake up in the night. And there was a huge thump, and I thought, oh my God, earthquake. And my first thought was, my computer's gonna fall on the ground. I should have thought more of Krishna, but and I was too scared to get out of bed and save it. But then that was it. It was just one big crash, like somebody put their big foot down. And that was it. But then another time it was 9:30 at night, just going to sleep. And then I heard this loud noise, and I thought it was the children. You know, there were 4 children, and I thought, well, they're making so much noise tonight, running back and forth on the above me. But then the whole house started swaying back and forth. I said, oh, it's not the children. It was another tremor. And it's good if you have a wooden house, then it doesn't collapse. So we were in a wooden house. So the wood sways, the bricks fall. So if you're in an earthquake, bricks are not good. But wood is great. Because we were just going back and forth. But it was kind of, you know, you just feel like you don't know if you're up or down. You don't know up from down or side to side. And then it was all dark. Anyway, I went out and I looked at the family and said, oh, was that a tremor? And they were all at their computers saying, playing a guessing game. 4.5. No, it's 4.7. Who got the right answer? So I thought, oh my God. Yeah, they're used to it. Anyway, but it's temporary. And then we started driving in the city, and they have these speed limits. And for each speed limit, it said 30 temporary, 40 temporary, because they were rebuilding the city, and so all the speed limits were temporary. And everything, you really got the feeling everything was temporary there, very temporary. So that's the next reason why we should surrender to Krishna. Now the third reason, fourth reason, Prahlad says, well actually it's kind of like the same thing. He says, I have complete experience concerning worldly opulence, mystic power, longevity, and other material pleasures. This powerful time you destroy them all. I don't wish to possess them. Place me in touch with your pure devotee. Let me serve his lotus feet. So that's how. First thing to surrender, serve pure devotee. So in the next verse 25, another reason to surrender. He said, in this world, everyone wants happiness, but it's like a mirage in the desert. So where is water in the desert? Where is happiness in this world? And this body is just a source of various diseases. So happiness is very difficult to obtain. But because they can't control their senses, they run after happiness of the material world and don't come to the right conclusion. And so everyone wants some future happiness, like a mirage in the desert, but we don't get it. So Yudhishthira, he was asked many questions. One question we're all familiar with was the most wonderful thing, that everyone is dying, but we think we won't. But he was asked another question: what is the news? What is the news? And his answer was, this world is like a huge cooking pot, and we're all being fried in this pot. And time is the cook, sun is the fire, the days and nights are the fuel. And some of us are well done. We are fried and in this pot, in this frying pan of this material world. Now, these are all like kind of negative reasons why we should surrender. There's a positive reason too, that Prahlad said. If we surrender, look, it causes mercy that not even Brahma, Shiva, or Lakshmi got. And Prahlad got that causes mercy. Shrigadev put his hand on Prahlad's head. And so I have an example of someone who followed this process and went back to Godhead. And this was one lady, one Vaishnavi in Mayapur. And I was following on Facebook. She was on her last days. And her husband was answering, on Facebook you get so many comments. So people were commenting, and he was answering those comments. And so he said, she's so happy now. She said, you gave me so many wonderful days, you took me to the most amazing places. So they were like traveling and preaching. He's an astrologer, he was an astrologer, and they were going like to Woodstock and all that. She said, you have given me the most loving friends, and I had so many wonderful times, but this is the best time of my life. You saved the best for last. If he's on her deathbed, this is the best. Can you believe it? This is the best time you saved. Well, how is it best? Okay, let's hear. Throughout all this year's struggle with health, so she had cancer. She had no pain. Even now she doesn't take painkillers. She's fully conscious and in bliss, true samadhi. Her mind is equipoised and focused in the holy name, form, and pastimes of Krishna. Devotees take time to perform kirtan for her, so our humble dwelling is full of transcendental sound vibration. So I saw on Facebook, Radhanath Swami was there, Jagataka Swami, and she had all these great devotees at her, talking to her, chanting for her. And so she has stopped eating to become more internal and focused on the ultimate goal, to go back to Godhead. Now the Lord is giving her so much love through devotees and friends, but we want her eternal well-being, not the temporary so-called health. So here are some of the comments on Facebook. Many people sympathized and said, we pray, she is well soon. I answer, yes, she will very soon be well, perfectly well, forever. Other friends said, I feel very sad. Simachi in this condition. I said, who is sad? She's blissful, very blissful. The body that was given to cross this ocean has done the service. She crossed, it's glorious, she doesn't need the boat. So it's disintegrated into the elements. Because the material energy can't cross to the spiritual realm. Body, chakras, mind, intelligence, ego stay in this side. Only the soul arrives. The devotee gets his eternal spiritual body, Goloka Vrindavan. Other friends said, I hope she recovers soon. Yes, we lost our spiritual identity by misusing our free will. We had so many births and deaths in this dark world. Now at last, she's recovering her spiritual identity. So yes, she will recover soon. Next, other friends said, I pray she may rest in peace. We are not the body. We don't go in a coffin. Only the body does. And the body's not resting. It's becoming dust. So for us, the party is just beginning. He's going to go join the party in the spiritual world. Others said, don't give up on life, but life is eternal and can never be given up. Only the material has to be given up, willingly or unwillingly. Others said, there's a doctor who has saved many lives. I said, doctors can't save lives, only Krishna can save our life from this material world. Mechanics can repair the car, they are not saving the car is not conscious. So at this point, the supreme doctor is Krishna and the medicine, the holy name. Other friends said, may you have strength in this time of difficulty. By Krishna's grace, he sent his divine grace, who gave us perfect knowledge of the nature of the soul. Nothing is difficult. I'm feeling more grateful. I was given her association for 25 years. Together we circled the world, sharing Krishna with all of you. I'm grateful Lord Chaitanya is bringing her closer under protection of his golden aura. Please don't feel offended. I've been asked how we are, and I'm honestly explaining to you our lucky situation. So it was Kadashi in Mayapur, the second day of Kirtan Mela, and she asked the deities, she asked her husband, are the deities open? And he said, yes, the deities are open. And he's an astrologer, so she asked him, is it a good time to leave? He said, yes. So she left. Kadashi. Yeah. So this is the mercy of Prabhupada. She was just a mother. She had 2 kids. She was a housewife. She wasn't a great preacher. Wasn't a Prabhupada disciple. But she went back to Godhead. So I was just reading Chaitanya Charitamrita the other night, and Lord Chaitanya was giving instructions to Nityananda. You can do a task even I cannot do. But for you, I can't find anyone in Bengal who can fulfill my mission there. So Prabhupada said in purport, Lord Chaitanya's mission is to deliver the fallen souls of this age. In this age of Kali, practically 10% of the population is fallen. So Lord Chaitanya certainly delivered many fallen souls. Jai Vaishnava. Speaking of Lord Chaitanya, here he is. He certainly delivered many fallen souls, but his disciples mainly came from the upper classes, Sarvabhaumacharya and such, Prakashananda. In the incarnation of Lord Nitai, the Lord is not supposed to kill demons, but he's supposed to deliver them by preaching Krishna consciousness. So in the case of Jagaya Madhai, Lord Chaitanya was so angry, he would have immediately killed them. But Nityananda was so kind. He not only saved them from death, but elevated them to the transcendental position. Thus, what was not possible for Lord Chaitanya was carried out by Nityananda. Now, here's the next one. Similarly, if one is true to Gaur Nitai's service in simple succession, he can even excel Nityananda Prabhu's service. This is the process of the simple succession. Nityananda Prabhu delivered Jagaya Madhai, but a servant of Nityananda Prabhu, by his grace, can deliver many thousands of Jagais and Madhais. That is the special benediction of the simple succession. So that's our Prabhupada. He's delivering thousands of Jagais and Madhais, and we were one of them, perhaps. If we simply follow Lord Chaitanya's instructions and follow the footsteps of Nityananda, This Krishna conscious movement can advance, and even more difficult tasks can be performed by the preachers remaining faithful to the service of the Lord. What's the time? I could tell a story I just heard by Indra Swami, how Prabhupada delivered somebody who was impossible to deliver. So I think I'll tell that story. Prabhupada was visiting Paris. So he was on a morning walk, and there was this guy, hippie, who jumped out of the bushes and was going for Prabhupada's feet. And the devotees grabbed him and threw him back in the bushes. But they went back to the temple. That guy was there in the temple waiting. And as soon as Prabhupada walked in, he grabbed Prabhupada's feet. There's some dirty bum from the bushes. And Prabhupada rubbed him on the head, and he was saying, it's all right, it's all right. Prabhupada was just rubbing him on the head. And the devotees were shocked, They had a name for him because they saw him before. They called him Pigpen. And so they thought, Prabhupada gave him so much mercy, maybe we have to keep him here. So they cleaned him up, they shaved him up, and he couldn't speak. His voice was, he couldn't speak properly. But then he did the service of cleaning the temple. So he started doing that service. And then in Yudhishthira Maharaj, he was going out on book distribution. And Pigpen came and sat in the front seat of the van. And he said, "Oh, Pigpen, you can't come." And he said, "No, I'm going. No, I'm going." And so then they went to distribute, and Pigpen was the first one out with a book bag full of books. And I thought, everybody's going to say, "No, wait, stop, you can't do that." And then he came back with an empty bag, and within an hour, full of money. And they said, "Well, what did you say to the people?" "Prabhupada saved me, Prabhupada saved me." This is what he said. And later on, this devotee started speaking, and he started giving classes. He became a big book distributor, and he got initiated. His name was Rasada. And recently in Vrindavan, he left his body. In Vrindavan. So, yeah, Prabhupada can even save the most, he was really the most fallen, I guess. So Prabhupada saved him. And that's how he preached. Prabhupada saved me. That's all he could say. He couldn't speak. So just like Vidura is asking questions, astonish Maitreya, sometimes devotees would ask Prabhupada questions that would astonish him. And again, Indra Swami, I just listened to his memoirs. So he asked the question, Prabhupada, it is said, and it's a question like Vidura has been asking, contradictory. It's a very contradictory question. And let's see how Prabhupada answered it. Maharaj said, it is said an advanced devotee sees Krishna everywhere. But it also says, devotee is always feeling separation from Krishna because he cannot see him. Oh, how is this? So Prabhupada closed his eyes, was thinking for a minute, and then he said, this is a very advanced question. So when you become advanced, you will know the answer to this question. And so Maharaj said, well, I hope that day comes, I will become advanced. As Prabhupada said, when I become advanced, so maybe it will come true. So this is a legacy Prabhupada has given us. Now we have to answer the questions following in his footsteps. So, are there any questions?
Just a comment, you were talking about surrendering to Krishna. It brings up the story of Maharaj Parikshit, who said, what is the duty of a man who's about to die?
Who's about to die. Mm-hmm. Right.
Very
Chant, hear, remember, that's the answer, yeah. Any other questions?
We got a new one, audience. We all know what we have to do is come to the
Yeah, we got a new one in
meetings.
the 9 process. Just look at the duties. That's another one. If you can't chant or your mind is too disturbed, Prabhupada said, just look at the duties. Okay, Jai. Jai.